crypto is just another asset class, right? So a lot of people hit me like, I don't like Bitcoin or Ethereum or, these other coins because I can't spend it. I can't go into a store and spend it. That's the total wrong way to look at it. You need to look at it the same way you would look at any other stock. It's just an asset class. Or gold, it's really a hedge against inflation.
I'm pleased to bring to you today a guy from Money Avenue, which provides funding across a variety of products, most prominently residential home loans, investment property loans, business loans, lines of credit, and personal financial solutions. As an emerging fintech company, Money Avenue ranked 199th on 2020's Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing companies in America. So absolutely legitimate here. So, hey, Donahue Baker, co-founder and CEO, teaches entrepreneurship at Morehouse, and is also a CPA that specializes in helping clients create generational wealth through real estate acquisitions and entrepreneurial investment opportunities. So welcome, Donahue.
Super happy to be here. Well, definitely been following your journey and excited to speak to you, brother.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So let's start here. So let's define generational wealth. It's one of those terms that we talk a lot about in our culture. People like, I'm gonna be the one in my family to finally create generational wealth. What is generational wealth? Just so we're all on the same page here.
Yeah. So one of the things that's a great question, but one of the misconceptions is generational wealth is just simply making sacrifices in your own personal life that will benefit the next generation, right? I'll tell you exactly what I did in my family. So I have a 3-year-old son. His name is Legacy. But when he was 2 years old, I basically, through a trust, was able to purchase a 6-unit apartment building in Newark, New Jersey. That apartment building is fully paid for, and it's going to do 2 big things for him. Number one, it's going to pay for his college education completely at the time when he's ready to go to college. But number 2, let's say he doesn't want to go to college or chooses not to go to college. He's going to have a monthly income that he can use to subsidize his living expenses or pursue whatever endeavors, whatever his God-given talents applied for. So that's a sacrifice that I made that I can pass on to the next generation. And hopefully he does the same. And that's generational wealth. And it doesn't take a whole bunch of money to do it. It really just takes a plan.
So if I say, I've built generational wealth, at what number do I have generational wealth? Or is it a system?
It's a system. It's really a system. So, taking my son, right? So he's a 6-unit apartment building in Newark, New Jersey. Each unit gets about $1,500 per month, right? And inflation, and that's rents that haven't been raised through COVID. Rents are going up. But by the time he's 18 years old, rents are going to be even, higher than what they are now for sure. Right? Not to mention the inflationary effects that's going to take place. So it's a system that can be passed on. And that system really is done really only through 2 ways, right? The first way that we just spoke about is real estate. That's one way, but also being an entrepreneur, setting up a business, doing something like that. That's another system that we need more of. We need more creators. We need more entrepreneurs. And that's what we try to do at Money Ave, focus on those 2 paths, the real estate path and the entrepreneurship path.
So when I started really getting serious about my finances, being a father and husband and et cetera, I learned, about insurance, and more than just car insurance is kind of how we all get introduced, specifically if you're in a city where you drive. But what are some less thought about sources of funding to get businesses started? Because we talk a lot about startup capital in the Black community. We get less venture capital, less angel investing, because a lot of people that we may know, we don't have those friends and family who can write us $10,000 checks often.
Absolutely.
What are some funding avenues that we typically don't think about as ways to get money to start a business?
Well, one of the ways that we really like to show creators how to fully become entrepreneurs in establishing businesses is leveraging their business credit. That's one of the ways that really are underutilized, right? So the example that I give is taking our ex-president, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has over 500 LLCs. one of the things that people do not realize is that in 1992, Donald Trump filed for bankruptcy. He actually filed for bankruptcy twice that we know of, in 92 and in 91. The same week that he did both bankruptcy filings, he established 4 new LLCs and leveraged the business credit of those LLCs the same week he filed for bankruptcy, right? So the point that I'm trying to make with that is that a lot of people don't really understand the power of the LLC. And when you understand the power of the LLC, that as a separate legal entity, you're able to leverage the business credit of that LLC. So what we do is we help people to set up LLCs and do just that, leverage their business credit. So for every LLC that you have, we basically help you get at least $50,000 of business credit that is not attached to your personal credit profile. Because most entrepreneurs, first thing they do is they leverage their personal credit. And we know that 90% of businesses fail, and that leaves you in a worse state than before. So going back to the analogy, if we just follow the same thing, the same path that Donald Trump has done, we can also emulate a lot of those business practices. And I think that's going to encourage more creators to really walk the entrepreneurship path, to take more risk, start businesses, at least use the $50,000 to prove the concept of the business, right? That's really the key.
Yes, it's so interesting you talk about that because, specifically about Donald Trump, because, for whatever we think about Donald Trump as what he was as president, he used our system to his benefit, and, you could say a whole lot of things about him, but what would you say when you see these stories about like how Amazon can get away with paying no taxes, how Apple can get away with paying no taxes, how Donald Trump can get away with paying, whatever he paid and use bankruptcy over here and LLC advantages over here? Our system is set up for business people. No?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And one of the things, I'm also a CPA, and one of the things that I've tried to build into our system is how do we really put ourselves to follow the best possible tax strategy. So if you're not either a landowner, which is real estate, or an entrepreneur, the system is not set up for you. Right? The system is really set up to benefit those that are business owners. So you think about small business and big business. Amazon can make $1 billion and pay no net taxes, right? It's because the system, the IRS code gives tremendous benefits for entrepreneurs and creators, right? And also people that own real estate. They're the ones that really can structure their path so that they have the minimal tax hit as possible, right? So I'm in real estate myself. I'm a real estate developer. I own over 500 units. I've reached a position that's called, it's a classification. It's called real estate professional. Once you get to that level, 100% of your expenses can be written off, right? And most people, to me, that's the nirvana of tax strategy, because whatever I do, it's, what my whole lifestyle is structured around tax savings, and whatever expenses I get is offset against earned income, the rental income that comes in through my units as a landlord. I don't necessarily get taxed the same way that someone with W-2 income is taxed.
Let's go in there because, it's when I learned that, poor people or employees pay taxes first, mm-hmm. and rich people pay taxes on what's left over. I'm like, okay, mm-hmm. the whole game just got changed for me because, right. When you get that paycheck, yeah, it's great to be Friday, but they took that stuff out already. When right. I get paid or when you get paid, you get the whole check. And then you got to figure out how do you leverage that check to make sure that you don't pay as much taxes at the end. How does this work?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head with everything you just said. So I know for example, you, and one of the things that we do at Money App is give people the paradigm, right? But you hit the nail on the head. So let me address for those individuals that are listening out there, how to really structure your business so that you have the minimum tax hit, right? So number one, you need a bank account. Whenever you get a check, you should have a business. Whatever line of work that you're in, startup, non-startup, technology, non-technology, you should have a business account, right? Now, with Money App, we have free business accounts. You can set up really, we try to disrupt the typical banks. You can set up a business banking account, but your check should come into that account, right? And then from that account, you should have separately a personal bank account. So you have a business account, pay yourself first, personal, put that from the business, the check comes into the business account, then you pay the personal account. But also you should have a business tax account, right? You also should have a business operating account. It's important to separate these funnels of cash flow. Number one, so you can make it easier for your tax professional to do your taxes at the end of the year. But also this is the savings, right? So let's say you get a check for $10,000, goes into your business account. Normally put 30% of that. So 3,000 goes into your tax account. Let's say you want to pay yourself, 10, 15%, whatever you need to live on, 20%, 2,000 goes into the personal account. Me personally, every LLC that I have, I also have an operating account, right? So I can track my who am I paying? So I'm paying my bills on time. My operating account is the account that I use day to day, and I can follow that ledger, and I can see, well, this is a vendor here. I don't know, I didn't pay that vendor. I can track fraud, things like that. So that's the structure, right? So basically, just in any basic business, that's 4 accounts that I just mentioned. You should have the business account, which really shouldn't be forward facing. It should be a business that no one can sue. It could be a holding company, something that only you would know, and then pass. When that check comes into that, we pass it to the personal account. We pay ourselves, right? Then we pass it to a tax account. So and a lot of businesses pay on a quarterly basis, but we want to make sure that we fund that tax account so that we're not scrambling at the end of the year to pay a big tax bill. But if you do it right, do it the way I said it, your operating account, you hand that operating account over to your CPA or your tax professional, and they're going to have an itemized list of what you spend on and what can be deducted from the tax liability that you created each quarter. So, hope I didn't get too in depth, but that's the formula.
Yeah, there's so much here, and I want to make sure before we get out of here, because we got some time left, but before we get out, because people are going to need to be able to dig in on this and learn how to find you. So, because I know this is half an hour of top level stuff, and there's so many lanes we can go down in. Talk to me about, because I learned this probably later than I would have liked to, and looking back, I'm like, man, where would I be if I would have done this? Reinvesting the profits, because when you first start a business and you see that first check come in, you're like, oh, we can go ball out. Oh, we can go shopping. Oh, we can go to the restaurant and order the extra appetizer, right? And talk to me about the importance of, for every dollar of profit, what is the importance of reinvesting that money back into the business to be able to grow?
That's super important, really. And just as founders or entrepreneurs, we have to take the position that, every dollar that you pull out of your business, you're actually hurting your business. So you want more and more dollars to be in your business so that you can multiply them as fast as possible, right? You want to get the maximum amount of ROI. Business or entrepreneurship, it's better than, and the wealthy know this, they would rather not have money just sitting in a bank account. You want that money to be working for you. And when you pull it out, like if you have a business that's thriving, that means you're probably getting a great ROI on your money. Better than you can get in the stock market, better than you can get by investing in even, aftermarket stocks. It's just a tremendous, entrepreneurship is the number one return, the number one ROI that you're going to get on your investment. You do not want to pull money out of that. So that's what I tell my clients, and really at Money Ave, we want to help more creators understand that metric. And that's one of the key metrics that are out there. So what we do is, let's say after you've proven the concept of your business, one of the key things that you have to do is scale. And you need capital to scale. But the best thing to do is have capital that is generated from your business. But most businesses that have the ability to have high growth, they need external investment. They need people from the outside to invest in them. That's one thing that we do that other financial institutions don't do. Businesses that are high growth, we get funding for you in terms of VC funding, where we have an angel syndicate in which we will invest below $250,000 in businesses that can scale. But it's the same process. You would much rather get the money that you need to scale and grow from the business itself. But most businesses, definitely to scale on a large level, need that external investment. And we want to show people how to do it the best way possible.
Yeah, let's go in. So you just mentioned something I thought was super important. It's about, having money sitting. And I didn't
Yes.
realize, that there is a such thing as having too much money in the bank. There's a such thing. And at what point do I have too much money sitting in my bank account? Because you like to see the number. You like to see like that statement come in and, you got a little bit of money over there. But it's like, it's stagnant. It's not really doing anything. So at what point should you pull the money out, and what should you put it into so where it's going to work?
Really, when you have cash sitting in an account that you can find a better use for it, that is safe, right? So in my particular business, I have an operating account on a monthly basis. In one of my projects, I may have a need for $20,000, $30,000. If let's say I'm something great, I sold the asset, I have a big check coming in, I don't need 100, 200, 300,000 sitting in an account, right? That's just too much. That's being too liquid, right? Unless I'm saving up for another move or another acquisition, but you want to have enough cash that you can at least be operational for 2 to 3 months. And then beyond all that, I think that you're at this threshold where you're not optimizing your cash value. So what I tell people to do, number one, is once you understand the highest and best use of your ROI, right? Whether it's in your business or whether it's investing in other businesses. We have ROI in our business, but one of the great things that we like to do is invest in other business. Our excess capitals, we like to see those, the new up and coming businesses that are on the horizon. How can we put 100,000 in their system to give them a greater ROI, which is going to allow us to grow even more, right? So it's really looking for those opportunities where you can get excess cash and put that cash to work. The wealthy do not have a whole bunch of cash sitting in a bank account. So we definitely don't want to do that. The reason why is very simple. When you have money sitting in a bank account, especially now that we just had a $2 trillion stimulus, the stimmies that went out, everyone's talking about the stimmies, but the deflationary effect of that is significant. So just having money sitting in an account, you're going to be able to buy less and less for your dollar. And this is what's going to happen going into the future. We know that taxes are going to go up. The cost of living is going up in most cities in the US. So it's just something to be super cognizant of if you're financially literate.
So what my key takeaways from there, and correct me if I got anything wrong, but you said you want to have enough cash for 2 to 3 months just to cover operations, in case the sky falls. So you can cover a couple of months out. But if you have a bit more than that, you should probably consider taking that money and putting it into a vehicle that gives you a safe but bigger return on your investment, other than whatever minute percent a bank account will give you. Correct?
Absolutely, Will. You hit the nail on the head. One of the things, and I'll tell you what we're really big into right now, is the DeFi space, that we're working on a number of different protocols that's going to allow people to get an incredible return compared to the bank, right? We know that the bank doesn't pay a great amount of interest. If you get 1%, you're super lucky. But we're looking through DeFi, we're and developing smart chain, developing smart contracts on the blockchain. We're going to be able to get people a higher rate of return for their interest. For those people that are closer to retirement, that don't want to take as much risk, we have a low risk vehicle that's coming up, and we'll stay tuned for that too. But I'm excited about it. But that's exactly when you have excess cash, you need to think of things like that, and that's being an innovator. That's what we're looking to do is innovate.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I want to make sure we at least get a couple in about crypto, which we'll talk about in a second. There's a question that came in via Facebook and said, what industries are the best to start a business? So I'll rephrase that, like, what industries do you see are on that upward trajectory where there's a bunch of opportunity to be able to create enterprise?
Any business, first of all, if you have a business and you do not have a technology business, one of the things about Afrotech is that, our community, we're so creative. Right. So one of the things that I love doing is talking to entrepreneurs and just telling them, they're getting them to think global. instead of thinking locally. Like you may have a regional business, but in this day and age, if you do not have a technology business, a business that's scalable, a business that you can create a business model in one city, let's say New York, and scale that out to the rest of the country or possibly the globe, you're in a business that's going to lose eventually, because the way that we're positioning, if you don't have that component, if you don't have that technology component, it's gonna be big fish eats little fish. And what's going on right now in this country is we're experiencing one of the greatest procedures or processes of wealth creation. What's happening in Silicon Valley is, you have people that are coming from the ideation stage, just having an idea. And in 3, 4, 5 years, they're becoming billionaires, right? And it's just that. Many of them have executable ideas, but many of them, depending on the circles, just ideas are getting funded, and that's creating these huge valuations. And we need the Afrotech Fair and everyone else in our community, they need to tap into that. And that's what we want to do, provide access to capital, helping them get there, bringing them through the different stages. That's key. That's part of our mission and our core values.
Another question from Facebook says, what about retirement accounts as an entrepreneur or employee with no 401k? It seems like if you don't have a 401k, you're screwed in terms of the limited amount you can fund IRAs.
That is true. So, many people that are a lot more mature, older, 60 years old, looking at retirement right now, are looking for these vehicles that they can get in and get a less risk-averse return, right? Something that basically allows them to just get income to live off of. I love the DeFi space, and that's what we're going to go into. I know you wanted to talk about crypto. I just think that the space is changing it's going so fast that from the first introduction of Bitcoin in 2009 to where we are now, we're at a point in time where it's mature enough where I think that those going into retirement that maybe have a small 401k can sit back and possibly get somewhere between 10% of low risk return. And a lot of people can live off that. You take your IRA, or you take a house, or you take a second home that you probably can't rent and get a decent ROI on, and convert that into these low risk, high yield investments, and you can walk right into retirement comfortably. So I'm excited about that space. It's still early. There's more developments coming on, but I guarantee you in the next year, you're going to see some incredible products on the marketplace.
Two questions about Bitcoin, about cryptocurrency, not specifically Bitcoin, but two questions about crypto. And then I want to make sure we get your ats where all we can find you. Number one is for people who've been hearing a ton about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Filecoin, all these things, but really still don't understand what this is. Can you give your best take on like a general definition for laymen who are trying to understand what crypto is and how to get involved?
Absolutely. So crypto is just another asset class, right? So a lot of people hit me like, I don't like Bitcoin or Ethereum or these other coins because I can't spend it. I can't go into a store and spend it. That's the total wrong way to look at it. You need to look at it the same way you would look at any other stock. It's just the asset class. Or gold. It's really a hedge against inflation, right? And it's an asset class that is potentially on the precipice of disrupting all economies as we know it, right? So you can take Bitcoin, which is, I'm not a huge investor in Bitcoin. I like Ethereum mainly because there's application to it, right? It's linked to a blockchain that has open source coding and allows for a number of derivative products that going into this next year, you're going to see everything about to be tokenized. So for the layperson, I think that it's important that if you're not into Bitcoin, please don't be disillusioned and stop there. Dive a little deeper and look at some of these other currencies that are out there. And I don't know why we call them currencies. They're just different asset classes that if you find something that's interesting to you, dig a little deeper. There's lots of scams out there too. Like people create these coins and then overnight something happens. And we've seen that. So we want to avoid that. But I want people to realize that is another source of wealth creation. So do some research into it.
So somebody wants you to define DeFi that you keep referencing, but I'm going to add to this the last question that I have as well is like, what are the tax implications of upside in cryptocurrency? So if so number one, define DeFi for us. But number two, let's say I put $1,000 in Bitcoin last year, and now it's at whatever, it's at 40 grand. And I try to take that money out. What are the tax implications of that? So if you can answer those.
I'll do it real quick. First of all, we'll start with DeFi. DeFi is just short for decentralized finance. Basically, it's a system that is going to revolutionize finance as we know it. How you borrow, how you lend, how you get derivative products. All of that is in the ecosystem of DeFi. It's basically a way in which you can get a contract, we call them smart contracts, with someone that's on the blockchain. So that allows you the blockchain is just a ledger of transaction that's on a bunch of, it's decentralized. So it's on a bunch of computers, meaning that should something happen on one computer, you're able to see this record and everyone is able to verify it. So that's it in a nutshell. Now, as far as the tax implications of investing in cryptocurrencies, my strategy is if you have a holding for greater than 1 year, you get taxed less. You get taxed at a lower rate than if you have, a lot of people are in and out of cryptos, right? So if you're in for less than a year, you get taxed at your normal tax rate, which tends to be a lot higher. But if you hold it for greater than a year, you're taxed at the capital gains tax rate, which is a lot lower, right? And in the new Biden administration, he's trying to raise it a little bit. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's going to pass Congress, but ultimately, I think that that's the way you want to think about crypto. You want to think about it as a long-term gain. And then going back to what we said before, of how you structure your accounts, if you purchase crypto under a business and it's set up the right way, you can also, the gains can be offset by a lot of other things that you're doing, right? A lot of operational expenses or other losses, because if you're investing, just like you're in the stock market, some years you may take a loss and you can write that off if you have that long-term perspective.